Imagine waking up tomorrow and money simply doesn't exist. Not just your money, all of it. Every coin, every bank account, every price tag on every shelf, gone. You're hungry. There's a baker 3 streets away with warm bread cooling in the window. You walk up. You ask for a loaf. He looks at you and asks the only question that matters now. What do you have that I want? You have nothing to offer, no wallet, no currency, just you. So how do you eat? How does anyone eat? For over 90% of human history, this wasn't a hypothetical. This was Tuesday. So how did entire civilizations feed themselves, build cities, raise armies, without a single coin ever changing hands? Most people assume the answer is barter. You trade your chicken for my shoes. Simple, right? But here's the problem. What if the shoemaker doesn't want a chicken? Economists have a name for this, the coincidence of wants problem, and it's brutal. Imagine you're a fisherman. You want a spear, but the toolmaker doesn't need fish today. He wants furs instead. So now you need a furrier. Who wants fish? Who'll trade you furs? Which you then trade for a spear. One transaction just became 3, and that's if you're lucky enough to find that exact chain of people at all. Now scale that up. A village of 200 people, all needing different things at different times. The math falls apart fast. So barter, on its own, barely works, which means something else must have been happening. Here's where it gets strange. Anthropologists who've spent decades inside hunter-gatherer and tribal communities found something almost nobody expected. Barter as an everyday system almost never existed the way we imagine it. So if people weren't trading item for item, what were they doing? They were remembering. In small communities, everyone knew everyone. And in a world like that, the real currency wasn't goods. It was obligation. You give your neighbor fish today, not because you want his furs right now, but because next winter, when your hut collapses under snow, he owes you. And everyone knows it. No ledger, no coins, just memory and reputation doing the accounting. But this creates a new problem instantly. What happens when the village grows? What happens when a stranger walks in from 3 valleys over, someone whose name you don't know, whose family you've never met? Memory breaks down. Trust breaks down. You can't run an economy on "I'll remember you owe me" with someone who might vanish by morning. This is the real crisis, not hunger, trust at scale. And this is where things get genuinely fascinating, because humans didn't invent money to make trade convenient. They invented it to make trust unnecessary. A coin doesn't care who you are. It doesn't require a relationship. It doesn't require memory. It's trusted because everyone silently, collectively agrees it has value, even though you can't eat it or wear it. But before coins existed, humans tried something else first: debt. Some of the earliest financial records ever found aren't coins. They're clay tablets from ancient Mesopotamia, over 5,000 years old, covered in tally marks for grain owed, animals owed, labor owed. Debt came before money, not the other way around. Temples kept records of who owed what. A farmer could take grain now and repay it after harvest. The record itself became a trust technology, letting people remember obligations at a scale no single human mind could hold. But even that had a limit. What happens when the person you owe doesn't want grain anymore, but wants cattle instead? You need something transferable, something almost anyone will accept, in almost any situation. So humans reached for things that already carried meaning. Salt in ancient Rome, cacao beans in Mesoamerica, cowrie shells across Africa and Asia, even massive stone discs on the island of Yap, some too heavy to move, where ownership simply changed by agreement, not by touching the object at all. Notice what's happening here. Value stopped being about usefulness. It became about shared belief. That's the twist almost nobody expects. Money was never really about gold or metal. It was always about agreement, an invisible contract that says, this represents worth, and we all pretend together. And once that agreement exists, everything changes. Strangers can trade. Cities can grow beyond the size where everyone knows everyone. You no longer need a relationship with someone to do business with them. You just need a shared symbol you both believe in. Here's what this really means. Before money, human survival depended on relationships. Every transaction was also a social bond wrapped in memory and obligation. Money broke that dependency. It let strangers cooperate at massive scale without ever needing to trust each other personally. That's not just an economic shift, it's a psychological one. It's arguably one of the reasons cities and nations became possible at all. Not better tools, a better fiction, one so powerful that billions of strangers believe in it every single day without ever discussing it out loud. So, next time you hand someone a coin, tap a card, or send money to a stranger you'll never meet, remember what you're actually doing. You're not exchanging metal or numbers on a screen. You're performing an act of trust between strangers, one so old we stopped noticing it thousands of years ago. Before money, survival meant knowing your neighbor. After money, survival only meant believing in the same story. Maybe that's the real invention, not currency. Belief at scale.